The difference between male stars then and today is quite stark, and it can be summarized or summed up into one word, and that is aura. So, in this video, I want to talk about what killed the aura in today's male stars. Honey, grab a drink and let's talk about it. So, I grew up in the mid to late 2000s and I love music. I grew up around people who loved music, and music has been my whole life basically. And different time periods of my life or rather are highlighted by certain songs or certain types of music or certain artists. And growing up, my uncles and my aunties loved some really, really good artists. And so, looking at artists today, especially male artists, there's a lot to be said, a lot to be desired, and it's not impressing. It is not impressing. And so, as someone who grew up in an era where Michael Jackson, Usher, Neyo were big, and I know Michael Jackson died like in the early 2000s, but his music and his legacy was still very much alive in pop culture. And so I was able to sort of be in an or grow up in an environment where people were listening to him, watching some DVDs of his concerts. And so when I look around today and look at the male artists that we have today, it's quite saddening. So a few weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I was listening and watching old DVDs of concerts, Usher's 8701, amazing, and also watching Neo's old performances and Michael Jackson as well. And I just came up with the question, what happened? Who's today's Michael Jackson, Usher, or Neyo? Like, why do we not have such great, captivating male artists today? And so I thought, you know what? Let me just make a video about this. Alright, so I'm not gonna make it long. My goal is to just keep my videos short for now, but if need arises, if people want me to do a deep dive or a deeper dive into this topic, then I will do it. But for now, it's just gonna be high level things. Okay, so artists, today's artists or newer artists rather that I'm gonna talk about, like in comparison to your Michael Jackson, Usher, and Neyo. And I might add Chris Brown as well to, the old school artists. But like the newer artists that I'm going to focus on will be like Burna Boy and then Travis Scott, because they are some of the bigger, newer artists. Okay. And yeah, so like with Michael Jackson, we know that he was an all-rounder, an ultimate entertainer, a visionary. His dance, vocals, and image just overall was just precise and was designed to please the audience, right? And then you had Usher, and Usher had elite vocals. Choreography was amazing and reminiscent of Michael Jackson, with a mix of hip-hop dance moves and all of that. And he had sex appeal. Amazing. Amazing. And then you had Neyo, songwriting genius, amazing, stage presence, dance moves as well, and also his voice is also amazing. It is impeccable. And with these three, and then also actually you also have Chris Brown, but I don't want to talk too much about Chris Brown because he's not a nice person. He's not someone you want to talk about. Like, he just leaves a bitter taste in your mouth, and that's all because of his personal life and things that he chooses to do outside of his career. Otherwise, his career, he had aura. And yeah, so these artists had like aura and even their overall image sort of like was neat, well put together, and there's a different feel to them. And I know that they are in a different genre, like they are part of the pop slash R&B group, which artists in those two groups, especially male artists, they were very very well put together. Like I don't know, there's just something about male artists, male R&B and pop artists, that is sort of like put together, well packaged, compared to your rap and trap artists. And yeah, so with modern stars, like with Travis Scott, he does a lot of, is it trap? I think it's trap music, trap and rap music. And he's big. Like, people genuinely love him. They love his antics. They love the crowd surfing, the catchy songs, and the chaotic energy. Like, young people love him. Okay. And then you have your Burna Boy, who came in with, the Afrofusion vibes, the Afro beats, and, the nice rhythm to his music. And people genuinely just love his music. So sonically, he also sounds good. Okay. And then you also have Drake. And I think Drake was at some point the closest among the newer artists to have aura. I don't know what happened, but I feel like it was like a few years, maybe 1-2 years, where she was like, okay, he's coming on quite well. And then out of nowhere, he just descended. He descended into the abyss or something. But yeah, so those are the modern artists. And one thing that is very stock in comparison to the older artists is that you can see that the newer artists prioritize having hits over hypnosis. And like with the older artists, like they wanted you to be hypnotized. It's like they wanted you to know them, to see them, to fall in love with them almost. Whereas nowadays artists, your Travis Scott, Burna Boy, Drake, it's all about their ego, and how they feed their ego is if their music is classified as, hits that people are streaming, they're hitting the big numbers. So they don't really care that much about the audience, right? And that was the number one thing that really stood out for me. It just felt like, the newer artists are not there, to please us or to appease us as the audience anymore, like the older ones were. Yeah, and so I think more reasons why the aura vanished, right? Outside of the newer artists being more focused on hits and the trends, instead of, the audience wanting to captivate the audience. I think the first and one of the bigger things to mention is the introduction of social media. Like with artists such as Usher, like the older artists Usher, Michael Jackson, and Neyo, the time that they came into the space, there was no social media. There were blogs, like with, I think, Neyo. There were blogs here and there. However, like, social media wasn't a thing. And so those artists managed to have some level of mystery to their image. What the public knew about them was mostly what they wanted the public to know. And so their image was more polished, and that was, thanks to their publicists and all of that. And if anything came out, like some rumors or something like that, the publicists were quickly able to, spin it around and manage, the PR miss. Whereas nowadays, we get access into artists' lives and, their personal lives, and we get to see them unpolished. And I think that, to an extent, contributes to the fading of the mystery that is, the artist. right? Compared to your Michael Jackson, where the only time you see him is when he wants you to see him, or if maybe paparazzi took some shots of him somewhere at the beach or somewhere at a hotel. And I think those moments, having those moments where it just felt like the pictures were not guaranteed. Like you just got a sneak peek into his life and that's it. You're not gonna see anything from him for however long they want you to not see anything, right? But also on the other hand, I feel like the access to social media is not a legit enough reason for why they lost aura. Because, for example, if I could make an example with Beyonce, she is on social media. In as much as like she's not on social media posting her personal business like everyone else is, or posting frequently like everyone is, but the fact remains that she is on social media. She chooses to keep a more polished social media, and as a result, when she posts, it's a bigger event. Like, people are freaking out that, oh my gosh, Beyonce posted, so it must mean something. And I think if the newer artists actually wanted to have that sort of appeal, then they would try some alteration of what Beyonce is doing. But I mean, they knew they can't do like Beyonce and just post once in 7 months or whenever. But I feel like they would have more control of what they post, like have a publicist, have PR people handle your social media accounts, post every day and all of those things, but who control what you put out there and also control your behavior around, people, because you never know. But so I feel like, the artists nowadays are not even trying, to maintain a certain image or to keep their image clean and polished, right? They do all these things, and then when they come out, it's like, yeah, no. And then also when they post on social media, they post nonsensical things that actually make people turn against them. Case in point is recently, Burna Boy has been in hot water for chasing a fan out of his concert. The fan was sleeping and she was in the front row seat, and he got his security to escort her out. And people came at him for that, because how the hell do you do that? Someone paid their hard-earned cash, to get a ticket to come watch you at your show, and you get offended by them being tired after you didn't even come at the time that you were supposed to come and perform at. And now you get upset that they are tired and are sleeping. You don't even know what they're going through. So people decided that, let's cancel this man. And first thing he posted on social media was a video of him and his friends kicking, drinking, and talking about he doesn't want broke fans anymore. And that was after people were like, you know what, she worked so hard for her ticket. Like, you never know, maybe she saved her last coin to be able to go see your show, and there you are chasing her out just for sleeping. So that was his snug response to people, asking those questions. And I was like, I don't want broke fans anyways. And yeah, so things like that, like, it's an instant loss of whatever aura, even though he didn't even have any aura to begin with, right? So it's things like that that made, the older artists like Neyo, Usher, Michael Jackson seem to have a lot more aura. Not even seem, they had aura, have a lot more aura. They cared about what they put out to the people. They cared about how they addressed their fans. And yeah, nowadays the artists, they don't care. They absolutely do not care. And yeah, I think another reason why aura points have gone down, I think the transition to like the bigger artists in the early 2000s when I grew up, right, were in R&B as well as pop. And rap was there, your Tupacs, your Biggie, and all of those people, but they were not big mainstream, and also they didn't have any aura. Maybe Tupac almost had aura, but like that was that. Rap was a marginalized, I'd say, category. Maybe not marginalized, I don't have the right word right now, but They were a certain category that was not as popular. So right now, though, things have changed. The bigger male artists are not doing pop or R&B. They're doing rap. So hence I made an example with Travis Scott, and then with Burna Boy. He sings Afro beats, which is it's in no way there. It's not R&B and it's also not rap. Yeah. So the point I basically wanted to make was that hip hop and trap and this newer now popular music favors vibes, basically. Yeah, it favors vibes over precision of art. So the vibe, with Travis Scott is, your cool gent who just wears baggy clothes and it just sells a vibe like that, right? Burna Boy as well, like all these newer artists, they just sell a vibe. It's just a vibe. Okay, they're all dressed like Kanye wears like homeless people. So it's all about a vibe. Whereas the older artists, they valued precision. Things had to be precise, and they had an intention behind, each and every album, each and every song that they put out there, right? Think Usher, your Confessions. That was precise, and that was him basically dishing out his own mess, because people were talking about him and his womanizer ways, so it was very much precise, and also precise to the whole entire aim of their image, which is to entice the audience, right? To make people believe the fantasy that, Usher is singing to them, Neyo is singing to them, Michael Jackson is singing to them. Whereas, yeah, nowadays music is not that. It lacks that. Also, another thing I want to mention is, do you notice that with artists nowadays, like on the whole thing of them just trying to be vibey and all of that, like not wanting to do anything cringe, as the Gen Zs always say, oh, that's cringe. Do you notice that, like, when older artists perform, people are always judging, like, oh, why are you doing those dance moves? It's not the 90s or it's not the 80s. And I feel like that is also part of the problem. It's the root of the problem. People nowadays don't want to be cringe. Artists nowadays don't want to be cringe. They're just trying to maintain this non-existent aura that everyone thinks they have. Yeah, they just want to maintain this non-existent aura. And it's like, but just do the cringy things. Like, Beyonce was throwing her head, her neck, left, right, center, and doing her robotic moves. And no one said anything, And it's one of the things about her that we actually love and value. Michael Jackson was doing his weird feet sliding dance moves that he calls moonwalk and all those things. Those were cringe, but he did it and we love it. Neyo with his head and his dance moves, pulling down his head, like all those things, like we love that. Usher as well. And so artists nowadays, you just wanna be cool, like, and not dance or do these cringy things that actually solidify and make them who they are, right? And I think that is the problem. That is why they don't have aura. Because I mean, if they danced, just show a little bit of their weird side or something, like people would love them. And the last thing I want to mention as well, I think the overall image, how they look, how they dress, and all of that. So as you can see, like with your Michael Jackson, your Usher, and all those people, they had a well put together image, a very well put together image. They look clean, they look like they smell so good, and I think like they knew that appealed to the audience, and especially female audience, because all three of these artists had major support from women, right? So they knew that their image catered to women, and it just made women swoon and fall in love with them. Whereas nowadays, in comparison, like you see, the dress code is not that well put together. You have people just looking dirty, like in your mind, like you know that they probably smell good because they have money, so they probably have all these expensive perfumes. However, looking at them, they just look dirty. They don't look put together, and it doesn't look like they put effort into what they're wearing. And as a result, that's a loss in aura points. And I mean, another example, like we had Judena, the I'm a classic man guy. He came out in the late 2000s, I think, or early 2010s. And people loved him. Like immediately, Classic Man was a hit because people valued the way that they presented themselves. Artists especially valued the way that they put themselves out, like the way they dress, and selling this image to people, that people just wanna cling to. And he was a hit. He was a hit up until he just disappeared, right? And so that's to prove the point that the image matters. How these artists present themselves matters. So without making this video any longer than it currently is, I think it's time to just cut it here, and then anything else that I missed, I can do another video if you guys want. So if you reached this part of the video, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment in the comment section down below and tell me if you agree with this. Do you think male artists today have aura, or do you agree with me that they don't have any aura compared to the olden day artists? And what are the things that you can say probably contributed to them having a lack of aura or no aura at all? And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up, share it with a friend if you care, and honey, I'll see you on the next one.